Hi guys, welcome to my Rules for Writing live lesson. Today we're going to be doing a quick lesson that's going to give you an overview of what's expected in terms of writing professionally for this course. Stick around to the end because I'm going to give you instructions on what to submit so that you can get credit for participating in this live lesson recording. So our essential question that we are going to be answering today is, how do I write properly? Your learning goal at the end of this lesson is that you should be able to demonstrate proper writing skills through the use of capitalization, punctuation, spelling, and sentence structure. So take a second to look at our learning scale and gauge how comfortable you are with this concept already. If you're a level 1, you're not sure how to write properly for this course. If you're a level 2, you know what's required to write properly, but you don't always know how to do it correctly. If you're a level 3, which is where we would at least like you to be at the end of this lesson, you can demonstrate proper writing skills for this course. And if you're a level 4, you can demonstrate proper writing skills not only for this course, but anywhere else that you write as well. So with a learning scale, there is no right or wrong answer. We just want you to think for yourself and reflect on how comfortable you are with the material. At the end of the lesson, we'll revisit this learning scale again so that you can see whether or not you grew in this concept so that we can gauge whether or not this live lesson was helpful for you. So before we get started, we're going to do a quick little pre-test. Which sentence uses a comma incorrectly? So which of the 4 sentences uses the comma incorrectly? So the correct answer here is that A is the sentence that does not use a comma correctly. Sarah didn't like the tea, but she drank it anyway. The reason this is incorrect is a comma indicates a pause, and if we were to say this sentence out loud, we would probably naturally pause like this. Sarah didn't like the tea, but she drank it anyway. So the comma should always go where you feel that natural pause. All right, for this pretest question, none of these need to be capitalized except you are correct. So C is the correct answer here. I is the only one of these that should be capitalized. Animals, verbs, and the last word in a quote do not need to be capitalized. And our last pretest question, which of these shortened words is acceptable in academic writing? None of the above is acceptable in academic writing, and we are going to cover this a little bit later in the lesson. So why should you care about professional writing? It's important to write well in academic writing, which means school and professional settings. The reason is because proper writing is easier for people to read and understand. If your work is full of mistakes and written very casually in the manner that you normally would for texting or social media, it's harder for people to take your opinion seriously. So if you are writing properly and putting your best foot forward, not only is your information easier to understand, but your reader will take you more seriously and respect your point of view. So let's talk about a few housekeeping rules first. Let's talk about font. Font is the type of text you use when you are writing in Microsoft Word or Google Docs. You should always be using Times New Roman, which you can set in the toolbar of your Microsoft Word application. It should be 12-point font, that's the size, and it should always be black. Don't put it in bold or italics or underline or anything like that. Just keep it standard Times New Roman, 12-point font, and the color black. When you are writing paragraphs, you should always indent the first line of a paragraph. I've seen a lot of students hit the space bar over and over and over again to try to move it over this half inch. Instead of doing that, which can make your indentations a little uneven, you can hit the tab button on the top left-hand corner of your keyboard, and it will automatically space you a half an inch into the paragraph. You can do this at the beginning of every paragraph, and it will be uniform all the way throughout. All stories and essays should be broken into multiple paragraphs, so before submitting a writing assignment, look over your work. If you have giant chunks of text that are taking up a whole page or longer, you might need to start breaking it up. For reference, paragraphs are typically anywhere from 5 to 7 sentences long. Let's talk about formatting titles. So, depending on what kind of source you are citing when you're putting titles in your writing, there are different ways of formatting it. Things like web pages, news articles, TV episodes, songs, short stories, and YouTube videos would need to be capitalized and placed in quotation marks. Italicized sources, which means they have that slanty thing going on, those would be actual book titles, website titles, TV show titles, magazines, CD albums, plays, and films. When you're writing, please stay objective, and the way that you do this is by writing in third person. So in case you're not clear on what this is, first person is when we say, I think, in my opinion, my research shows. In all academic writing, unless you have been specifically asked about your particular opinion or experience, you should always be writing in third person. This means we never say the words I or you. So instead of the examples above, you would see third person examples such as, it is clear that, or according to research, or the evidence shows. So I want you to take a second and look at this sentence and think about how could you make this sentence third person instead of first person? Good idea. You would probably take out in my opinion and I think. If you cross that entire portion out, you have a third person sentence. It's important for college athletes to be paid to play for their schools. Let's talk about capitalization. This should be a review for you since elementary school, but just as an overview as you start this class with me, make sure you are always capitalizing the beginning of a sentence, the beginning of a quote, I, when you're referring to I, proper nouns, which means the names of places, people, and things, such as St. Augustine or Elizabeth or the game Monopoly. Common nouns do not need to be capitalized, such as a board game or grandma, unless her name is actually grandma, and restaurant. Let's talk about punctuation. Again, this is a review for you since elementary school, but the most common kinds of punctuation that I should be seeing in your writing is periods, exclamation points, question marks, apostrophes, and commas. So here you can see some sentences that are missing some key punctuation. So I want you to take a second and look over these and consider what kind of punctuation might be missing. So our first sentence here, research shows that homework is beneficial for students. This is just a normal sentence, so it would be best for us to put a period at the end. Sally exclaimed, I can't wait for the fair. Because she exclaimed, it sounds like she's excited, so we would use an exclamation point. Should doctors be held responsible for the opioid crisis? This is a question, so we would use a question mark. Michael's pencil broke during the test. The word Michael's needs an apostrophe to show possession. Although many think there should be no consequences, it's important for people to be held responsible for their posts on social media. A comma is missing here between the independent and the dependent clause. Let's talk about spelling. Please make sure that you spell out all words, no text lingo. It's okay for us to type and talk casually through texting and social media, but when we are writing academically, all words should be spelled out. No abbreviations, no acronyms, nothing like that. If you don't know how to spell a word, that's okay. Look it up. You are working virtually online, so you have Google right at your fingertips in order to look up how to spell words that you're unfamiliar with. And before you submit your work, always proofread it to make sure that there are no silly mistakes that could easily be fixed with a quick glance over your work. So, think about these common words that get shortened. How should these words be spelled when writing? You should be spelled Y-O-U. BTW should be expanded to by the way. OK, which is a trick question, should be expanded to O-K-A-Y. Cuz or BC should be expanded to the full word because. And dunno should be spelled out as I don't know. Let's talk about formal language. Always write with formal professional language. That means that even if you're spelling things out, your words also need to be very professional and mature. So here are some words that I should never see in your writing. Haha, IDK, whatever, things, kinda, emojis, I think, for you, or a lot. Can you think of any other words or phrases that should not be used in professional academic writing? So that's the end of my tutorial. Here's something that I want you to consider to make sure that you can put these skills to the test. Here is a paragraph about McDonald's that has several errors that make it not only incorrect but also unprofessional and immature. To me, I think people should stop eating McDonald's. It's bad for you. There's too many calories and also it costs a lot of money, so people should stop. If they don't, they will waste all their money. Yeah, McDonald's is legit, but it's just not worth it. Smiley face. So consider as you read over this paragraph what kind of errors you identify. Think about capitalization, punctuation, spelling, speaking in a professional way. And if you need to, pause the video and make these edits on a piece of paper. Here is a sample paragraph that is edited from the above paragraph that's filled with errors. So instead of the one that we see that is very immature and filled with spelling and capitalization errors and emojis, a corrected version of this might look something like this. People should stop eating McDonald's because it is not healthy. There are too many calories and it costs too much money. If people do not stop eating there, they will waste their money. Although it is delicious, it isn't worth it. What you see here in this revision is correct capitalization, punctuation. I checked my work to make sure that certain words were spelled correctly. There's no emojis, and I am speaking with a formal academic tone. So now that we've reached the end of this live lesson, let's check our learning scale again. Look at the levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 and gauge after this information where you think you fall. Hopefully you're reaching a level 3, but if you still feel like you're at a level 2 or 1 even, that's okay. Writing skills is something that we practice throughout our entire writing career. I just hope that this lesson is something that you can revisit and use as a guide as you start my class. So this is the end of the live lesson. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me via phone call, text, or email. I would love to help you with whatever you need help with. That being said, go ahead and write a paragraph explaining the most helpful tip you learned from today's live lesson recording. In order to get credit for viewing this video, you will write that paragraph and then you will go to your assessments list and find either the segment blank assessment or the segment enrichment assessment. In the student comments box, go ahead and just pop that paragraph in there. Let me know what was most helpful for you and why, and submit it, and I'll be able to give you extra credit. So that's it, guys. Again, any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a great afternoon, and I look forward to grading all of your awesome writing assignments this year.